Hi guys, can you hear me? Is the audio okay? Hi Granny Annie. Hi Jamie. If you can hear me guys, just say yes. Just type in yes. Excellent, thank you. I'll give it another couple of minutes. Because it's not quite 11 o'clock, so I'll give it another couple of minutes and then we'll get started. How are you all today? It's actually gorgeous weather here in the UK. Well, in the northeast, which doesn't normally get really nice weather. I'm just going to get some more water, guys. I'll be back in a second. Oh. Good boy. Coming over here. You sitting over here? No? You sure? You gonna sit over here? Alright. You do what you want. Hi Cheryl, hi Ashley. Oh, are you in Manchester, are you? I've only been to Manchester a couple of times with some of the lads from the army. They took me up there because that's where they were from. Wow, Nashville. Hi Christy. I'll get started this in just a second. Come on then, over you come. I knew you would come over. You big dope. You can't take my water. I think I'll show you who else is here. Cool. Say hello. Alright, let's get that back up there. Lancashire. It's lovely down there. You're from the Caribbean? Wow. Yeah, he is very cute and he knows it as well. He plays up to it every time he goes out for a walk and he sees lots of other people. Hi guys. Hope you're all well. Alright, so I'll just get this started. So I was originally, right, so this is what my plans are going forward. So I want to try and do a live stream every Thursday. Trinidad and Tobago? Wow. I want to try and do a live stream every Thursday and just call it like TAGG Thursday and then the number of the live stream that it is, like this one's number 1. And obviously TAGG just because that's the initials of the art gear guide. I couldn't really come up with anything more creative than that. And I'll be doing various different things throughout these live streams. It's just that the live streams can be a little bit easier. I mean, like, I've had a terrible problem this morning with the technology. My actual camera that I use for doing the reviews, which is like a proper camcorder, for some reason I couldn't get it connected, so the quality probably won't be that great. Looking down here onto the table, because I'm using what do you call it? I'm using one of those webcams. So it's a 1080p webcam, but it's not going to be the same quality of the camcorder that I use. So hopefully it'll be okay. Hopefully I know I can't stroke you the whole way through this. Hopefully it'll be a webcam, or the quality be okay. But what I thought was, when I was doing this, that I'll talk about paper, because originally I was just going to sit and I was going to do some artwork here. This is the artwork here that I'm doing. This is with the Marco Chroma pencils that I'm going to be putting a review up of soon. But the paper that I'm using is the Hahnemühle paper. And so I thought to myself, right, okay, so I get asked a lot of questions about paper, the different types of paper there are and stuff like that. And so I thought to myself that I'll do a video and we'll talk about the Hahnemühle paper, because I need to do a review of that. Hahnemühle sent me a lot of different papers, and a lot of the reviews that I've put up recently, you will notice that the artwork that I've done, whether it's a watercolor or whether it's color pencils, has been on Hahnemühle paper. I've done a marker. I think it was for the Ohuhu markers. I've done a review of those, and I used the Hahnemühle Bristol Board paper, which was really, really nice. So hang on a wee second. Just gonna fix this chat, guys, because I haven't got it set up right. That should be better now, hopefully. Right, okay, I've set up the chat right. I had it set up as top chat instead of live chat. Sorry about that. Okay, so one of the things. So, if you're not familiar with Hahnemühle, you'll probably be familiar with their logo. This is the logo here that they have. This like hen thing, chicken thing, whatever it is, and then the Hahnemühle name. They are a very popular brand, and they have an awful lot of papers to choose from. But one of the things that I discovered about this company is, when it comes down to things like sustainability and the environment and what have you, they are doing so much. I know lots of other paper companies are doing the same, but if you are if you're the type of person that is concerned about the environment, global warming, that type of thing, you're going to want to be looking for sustainable products to use. And Hahnemühle are coming up with so many different variations of paper, obviously because whenever they're using paper, they're cutting down trees, and so they're like I say, they're coming up with lots of different things. Bamboo is one of them. This is another one here that they've come up with, which is a Jeeve or something like that. I can't pronounce it properly. But this is a watercolor paper, so I'll be doing some testing on this. Now, the bamboo paper and the Agave paper and some of the other papers that they're bringing out with are going to take a little bit of getting used to. When I used this, I found that the water sat on top of it a little bit more than, say, ordinary conventional watercolor paper. But it was still okay to use. But it's just like anything else. Whenever you're learning something or you're going to use something, it's a learning curve, isn't it? Can everybody still hear the audio, guys? All right, okay, that's all right. Okay, so what I want to do is, so I've got, like I say, I've got different papers that I'm going to show you here. I'm going to show you the different effects of the different papers that colored pencil artists use primarily, and then I'm going to show you some. Different effects on, like, with watercolors on the papers and stuff like as well, and I'm going to show you the effects of their pastel paper. Now, I know not everybody is into pastels, but I have the paper, so I'm going to show you what it looks like with different with pastel blocks on it. And actually, I mean, this particular paper is not my favorite type. This is the ombre paper, pastel paper. It's not my favorite paper for using with pastels, because it's not like a sanded paper. It just has a slight texture to it. But actually, as you've seen there, this is the first time I've opened it. So inside this ombre, the Hahnemühle ombre pad, they have different colored paper here. So you've got some white, you've got some off-white. I guess that would be kind of like eggshell. And then there's like this creamy color. And actually, the texture on this isn't too bad. Some of the ombre paper that I've used in the past, it doesn't, the texture on the paper doesn't really hold on to the pastels that well. And also, one of the biggest problems with ombre paper is that it's flexible. And obviously, if you use pastels, you'll know that you need a pretty hard surface. I suppose you could mount this onto something, but this is what a lot of people find having issues with the ombre paper, is that it's too flexible. Having said that, there are some amazing artists, amazing pastel artists that use ombre paper all the time, and you know, when they mount it and things like that, it's absolutely fine. But I like the way on the end of the paper here, it's kind of got this like deckled edge, so it looks antique almost. It's nice. But let's get on with some of the other papers. So let me move this drawing out of the way, because that's going to be a speed drawing for the Marco Chrome pencils. Okay, so I'm going to show you this Agave paper first. Agave or Agave. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce it. and it is £135, 290 GSM. And if you're not 100% sure, hi everybody that's come in to the chat room recently. Sorry, I'm just gabbling away out of not greeted everybody coming in. If you're not too familiar about when you look at paper like this, and you see this 290 GSM and then £135, what it means. So if you're not familiar with that, basically what it means is the weight here, £135, that is based on this paper here or any other pad that you look at stacked in sheets of 500, which is a ream, and that's how they weigh it. So they'll weigh it with 500 sheets on a table or put them on a scales, and it'll come up to £135. And that's what it means by £135. The GSM is really about the thickness of the paper. So let me show you. An example. So this one here is 290 GSM. Let me just take the block out here because it's in a block. Okay, so like I say, this Agiv or Agiv is 290 GSM. So you can see there, hopefully, the thickness or the thinness of the paper. Whereas opposed to this one here, which is 640 GSM. And this is the paper here, so you can see just how thick this paper is. Hi, random stuff. You can see how thick this paper is. It's almost like a cardboard. You can do a bit of... Who was it? Ralph Harris from Australia. He used to do that. Mustn't mention him now because he's in jail for terrible crimes. But anyway... so that's what the GSM means. It just basically means the thickness of the paper. And as an artist, you get to know what thickness of paper you like to work at. And what I found is that with the likes of that 640 that I just showed you that have been drawn the bee on, that paper just absorbs so much water. So if you're a watercolor artist and you like doing wet on wet and stuff like that, that type of paper, and especially because it's on a block as well. So when it's on a block, it means that it's all glued around the sides, and you've got to take a knife whenever you want to take it off and run it round. Or one of these little things here. These just save you from ripping the paper, because sometimes you can rip the paper with a knife when you're running it round. But when watercolor paper's on a block, it's much better. It stops it, not completely, but it stops it from bubbling and stuff like that when you're putting water on. But with paper like the weight of the 640 that I've just shown you, there's hardly any bubbling or anything like that with that paper in any case, because it is so thick. So I want to show you this paper here, but before I show you this paper, I just want to give you a little bit of an insight into what the paper is and why they're putting it out there as an alternative. So Okay, so I'm reading from their catalogue here, so because I want to make sure that I get it right and I don't just waffle on. So the Ajiv watercolor is a natural white watercolor paper. It is characterized by its cold press and homogeneous surface. It is suitable for all kinds of watercolor techniques, especially for glazing. The special surface of the 290 GSM paper allows brushes to slide over the surface easily and allows for brilliant color gradients. Washouts and corrections are simple possibilities. Ajiv watercolor is acid-free, non-aging, and vegan. So if you are vegan and you are for the environment and things like that, this type of paper here is going to be excellent. And this is another thing that a lot of art companies now. Hi Bella. Yeah, Cheryl, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know, because I've never used acrylics. I get companies trying to send me acrylic paints all the time to review, but I just turn them down because I don't know enough about them to be able to say whether one's good or one's bad. And I'm afraid I wouldn't even know where to start with trying to produce any artwork. But anyway, so this paper here, if you're vegan and you're looking for alternative products and stuff like that, this is excellent for you. And like I was saying, a lot of art companies now are trying to make sure that their products are all vegan friendly and sustainable. I know Karen Dash do a great job doing trying to get better sustainability and what have you. So anyway, it's acid free, non-aging, and vegan. By using sizzle, a fast-growing and resource-saving raw material, Ajiv watercolor is the ideal painting surface for environmentally cautious artists. All Ajiv watercolor blocks are glued on all four sides, which I just spoke about. Individual sheets can easily be removed by the bamboo folder. That's the thing that I was showing you, the Hahnemühle bamboo folder. You can get that from their website. So, but like I say, when they're coming up with these new possibilities for watercolor paper, there are little bits of learning curves that you're going to have to go on. And the description of this Ajiv water paper is right. The water seems to stay on the top of the paper. Hi, Susan. The water seems to stay on top of the paper more. It doesn't seem to be as absorbent as other watercolor papers, like cotton watercolor papers. So I'll show you that now. And don't worry, I am going to show you like colored pencil stuff as well. It's not just going to be watercolor stuff. So just getting me okay, I know it's going in and out of focus here, but it'll come back in a second. There we go. It's just because of all the white. Okay, so I'm just gonna wet the paper. You're not going to be able to see much here, but there is a little bit of buckling with it. But like I say, if you use it on the block, you get less buckling. And so when Hahnemühle were saying that it's good for washes, it's good for gradients, good for wet on wet, that they were absolutely right in saying that. You can see there that the way that the water sits, it just sits on the top here. And and it does take a while for it to dry into the paper, absorb into the paper, and that wasn't, I mean, like, at the end of the day, that wasn't a particularly like heavy wash. That was pretty mild, actually, compared to what a lot of watercolor artists would use. But and the water is still sat on the top here, you see. It's not really drying, it's still in puddles, like up around here and stuff like that. It's still easy to move around. Now that can be a benefit, it can be a negative. It just depends how you, as a watercolor, it just depends how you as a watercolor artist like to do your work. The thing is, and I say this all the time for tags, sorry Susan, TAGG stands for the Art Gear Guide. So the Art Gear Guide. So I'm just going to call I'm going to do these streams every week, hopefully every Thursday, and I'm just going to call them TAGG Thursday. I would have done TAGG Tuesday, but my wife is off work on a Tuesday, and if I did a live stream, I would have to boot her out of the living room, and I'm not really that brave, so I thought Thursday would be better. So anyway, it depends how you, as a watercolor artist, see, you can see here, it's still moving about. There's still water here moving about. And that can be, like I say, it can be a benefit. It can be a benefit to you if, as a watercolor artist, you need more time. Sometimes when you're working with watercolors, you got to work quite fast because of the absorbency. So a paper like this gives you just a little bit more time if you're doing washes and things like that, or you're doing like a sky. Sometimes when you do a sky on like a really nice 100% cotton watercolor paper, you need to really, really saturate that paper to give you enough time to do what you need to do for the skies, because the cotton just absorbs it in. Yeah, Bella, that's what Hahnemühle are doing. Bella's just said there, we do need a good watercolor paper that is not made of cotton. That's exactly what Hahnemühle are trying to do. They're trying to expand their horizons and come up with sustainable alternatives to cotton, and obviously, cutting down trees and things like that. So that's why they're pushing bamboo. Bamboo's another big one that they're trying to push. I know other paper manufacturers are exploring the same type of stuff, but from what I've read and from what the agent that I spoke to from Hahnemühle, the stuff that they're doing is really, really vast. They've got a lot of things going on in terms of sustainability for vegans, vegetarians, that type of stuff. Making sure that their products are all vegan friendly. So there should come a time where there's going to be products for everybody. People who are concerned about the environment, things like that, will be able to go and buy the products that they want without feeling that they're being forced into buying a cotton-based paper which they may not feel comfortable with using because of how they view things and their own political views and the way they look at the world. And so having that choice is going to make people feel a lot better and spread a little bit of inclusion. So that's the Agive or Agive paper. This does have a little bit of cotton in it. It has 30% cotton and 70% Agive fiber. So it does have a little bit of cotton in it, but not much. It's not like 100% cotton. I think they, well, Cheryl's just said that she hopes Hahnemühle comes up with a good bamboo based watercolor paper, and I have a big sheet here of all the different papers that they have. So I'm nearly sure they have a bamboo one. Another thing as well, guys, listen, paper is really expensive. Oh, is it cactus? Oh, thanks, Granny Annie. Alright, so I get a lot of people asking me about papers, what's the best paper to use and stuff like that. And it's really, really difficult to answer that question because there's so many different variables that come into place whenever you're talking about paper. If, you know, you're a colour pencil artist, the type of pressure that you use, whether you like using layers, whether you like using marker as an underbase and then pencil on, loads of different variables. But one of the things that I always tell people to do is to contact a paper company, so like Hahnemühle or like Strathmore or any of the other big paper companies that are out there, and ask them to send you a sample pack. You might have to pay for it. It might be like 10 or 15 pounds, but it's a lot cheaper than going out, buying pads, testing them, and then going out and buying another pad. And so this is what like a sample pack looks like. So they have all of their papers in this sample pack, including oil paper for oils and acrylics. They have everything in this, and so what you can do is, it's obviously not full sheets of paper, but it's enough paper for you to use, whether you're using watercolor, acrylics, colored pencils, graphite, whatever it is you're using. There's enough surface area on all of the different papers for you to try it out without having to go out and buy a pad. And that's the best and cheapest way for you to find out what paper is best for your techniques, for the way, you know, you hold the pencil, the pressure you put in your pencil, whether you're doing lots of layering, whether you are the type of artist that just likes putting the colour down and skipping layers, which a lot of colour pencil artists do. But let me, I'm just checking here because I'm nearly sure that there's I'm nearly sure that there's a bamboo paper in here. And I'm also going to show you their collection range of papers, which is obviously their top of the range. So if you're familiar with Strathmore and the way they do things, Strathmore's 500 series is their top of the range papers. So the collection range that I'm going to show you here is Hahnemühle's top range. Oh, another paper that they do is hemp. That's not right. So they don't actually have a bamboo watercolor paper, but they have a bamboo mixed media paper. So that should be in here, because a mixed media paper is still good enough for. Most mixed media papers are good enough for you to do what do you call it, like decent washes, decent watercolor work. Because they're thick enough for that. Most of them are thick enough for it. They've got the weight and the strength behind them to absorb the water and not rip your paper or anything like that. I'm just trying to find it here so I can show you. Of course, Hahnemühle, as well as the ombre paper that I was showing you earlier on for pastels, Hahnemühle do the oh, what's it called? It's the pastel paper that's a little bit like velvet, working with velvet, and it's Velour. That's what it's called. They do velour as well, and there's a fantastic pastel artist called Emma Kober, and she uses velour quite a lot, and the work she could do on those on that paper is just awesome. So another watercolor paper that they do, and a lot of companies are doing this now as well, is like toned watercolor paper. There's an outstanding watercolor artist called Susan. They don't do pastel matte paper. The two papers that they do for pastels, the Hahnemühle do for pastels, is the ombre paper, which I'll show you in a second, and it's a bit hit and miss. It doesn't have that gritty, sandy surface or anything like that, so you're limited to the layers that you can do. And then they have the velour, velour is a really strange surface. It's like working with like a cloth material. It's like velvet. It seems to hold on to the pastels really well, but you have to mount it on something. You have to mount it on something quite hard, because it's a really flimsy surface. But a lot of companies are now coming out with different watercolor papers, different colored watercolor papers. You can get black watercolor papers, like tanned. This one here is a grey watercolor paper. It's 200 GSM. So relatively thick. You're not going to be able to get too many, like it will buckle unless you sellotape it all down. This is not a block, this is just a pad. But a lot of people are really interested in how the paper looks, how watercolors look on a darker surface. And I would really want to try some black watercolor paper, although for me personally, I think black watercolor paper would be much better for gouache, because gouache is a lot more opaque. Using watercolors is obviously, well, they're a lot more translucent, and so for some reason in my head, I just think that they might get lost on black paper. But it's something I wouldn't mind trying. So anyway, we're going to use this. I'm going to show you what some of the colours are like on this Hahnemühle watercolour paper, which is the, like I say, 200 GSM. Hang on, guys. I'm just, I'm sweating here. My back's sore. Right, so I'm just going to do what I've done the last time. I'm just going to put a wash down here, do a little bit of wet on wet, show you how the paint reacts with the paper and what it looks like as well. So I'm not going to make it too wet. But see, already I can see that this paper here is absorbing the water much, much faster than the agave paper did. And you can see it's buckling up there. I'm not going to like tape it all down or anything like that. So I'm going to put like a few lighter colors on this just to, oh, actually I'm quite surprised how it looks on the grey paper. I was saying earlier on, there's a really good watercolor artist called Alex Hillcross, I think his name is. I'll put a link for his stuff down below. He has a tutorial on Domestica, a watercolor tutorial on Domestica, and his work is awesome. And he works on tanned paper as well and grey papers, but that I'm actually surprised at that, at how vivid the colours are on the grey paper. Granny Annie, so the hemp paper is, they've got different versions of the hemp paper. So I think with that they've got it on for a sketch. For like a sketch pad, and I think, I'm not 100% sure. I'm just checking up here for you. Yeah, Hemp Sketch. So it's 80 GSM. So it's just thin sheets. And that's it. That's all I can see here on their catalogue, on the brochure that they sent me. So with regards to the hemp, it's just sketch paper, so it's 80 GSM, so it's quite thin. With regards to the bamboo mixed media paper, that's 265 GSM, so that's quite thick paper, so you're going to be able to do quite a nice wash on that. Yeah, Jason Morgan is an outstanding artist. I love his work. His work is just phenomenal, what he does with pastels. But yeah, the bamboo comes in mixed media, 265 GSM, so that's quite thick paper. And the bamboo sketch, which is thinner, but not as thin as the hemp, it's 105 GSM. So I'll try and get my hands on some of that bamboo mixed media paper, because that would be a really good one to show, because I know a lot of people are trying to move over to bamboo because it's much more sustainable. People are much more happy to go out and use that as opposed to cotton papers, cotton based papers. Right, so this paper here is dried a little bit now, so I'm just applying some colour that's not wet on wet. And you can see there, let me just put a light wash of that on as well. So even when you're putting a light wash on it, the paint still. I'm actually quite surprised at that, and pleasantly surprised. I think those colours look really well with the grey background. Let's get a bit of a green in there as well. I'll try a darker colour. Mind you, I've tried using some lighter colours here just to because I thought they would be the problem. This one here is Payne's Grey. So you can see there that with the grey paper, the colour shows up really nicely, actually. A lot better than what I was anticipating it to do. So with their collection paper, which is their high quality paper, the collection paper is the 100% cotton paper. So, you know, if you're looking for I think cotton, 100% cotton is always going to be the hi Dawn. I think cotton for the meantime, until all these companies are able to refine all these other alternatives that they're trying to come up with, I think cotton it's still going to be the high standard. It's still going to be the paper that everybody goes to, because working on cotton paper, especially for color pencil artists. When I use the Strathmore 500 series, which is 100% cotton paper, I use the Bristol plate surface, which is really super smooth, but it's that cotton content that for some reason just allows me to keep layering and layering. With the Hahnemühle paper here, so like I say, this is their collection paper. This B that I'm drawing here is done on their 640 GSM paper, £300. You get 10 sheets in that, but as you can see, the paper is really thick. Now, the agent that I was talking to from Hahnemühle said to me that one of the things they get, not complaints, but feedback about, is that their blocks. So if you look at this pad here, their blocks have got this black stuff all the way around the block, okay? And you can see it there as well. And so when you tear off the paper, they still have this black bit running around the side, but it can be easily removed if you just it's a little bit time consuming, but it can be removed by just running your fingernail along it. See, if you go to the part in the blocks, if you're not familiar with blocks, all the paper is glued. It's all glued together, and the reason why they do that is because if you're doing like washes and things like that with your watercolors, the paper stays. So instead of having to sellotape the paper down, which a lot of hi Askia, which a lot of people do, still sellotape it down regardless whether it's on a block or not, but you don't have to when it's on a block. And then what you do is, there's always a little piece here up at the top part of the block, or sometimes on the corner, that isn't glued. And so then that's when you would get your little bone thing here. I hope you can see this. You would pull the paper apart, you can see the different layers there, and then push your bone down into it and then just run it along. Or if you're really careful, you can just use an X-Acto knife, but sometimes that can cause you to rip the paper, and you don't want to do that after you've... But anyway, I wanted to mention this black this black ring round the side of the paper, because this is something that the agent that I was talking to told me that they get some feedback on it, and I just wanted to mention that you can remove it. For most people, in any case, if they're going to do like a watercolor, most people are going to put a mount over it and then put it in a frame, and so that wouldn't be seen in any case. But again, some people just don't want to have the hassle of taking it off. But anyway, so this one, this paper here, this drawing here is done on this 640 GSM, and that's from the collection paper, so that's 100% cotton. But then they have a 300 GSM, 140 pound, 10 sheet block, so much thinner paper. And actually, just let me show you. I'm just getting the artwork that I created on that paper for you, because I'm nearly sure it was the fairy. Sorry guys, I'll be back with these in just a second. Just getting these bits of paper. Yeah, so when I done this, this bird on the Stadler Lunar watercolor pencils, that was done on the 300 GSM Hahnemühle watercolor paper. Again, 100% cotton, and I suppose a lot of people could say that is daft, using really inexpensive pencils on 100% watercolor, or sorry, 100% cotton paper, because it's really expensive paper and what have you. But I'm in a really privileged position, and actually, guys, while you are all here, I just want to mention this quite quickly. I have two giveaways up at the minute. One is for the Kohinoor 144 set, which I know you all know about. The other one is for the Pearl Essence Paul Rubin watercolor set, which is like a watercolor set like this. I've done a review of them. The reviews on the channel, but I'm giving them away, and I have received so many really lovely comments saying, you know, Harry, you're so generous, thank you so much. I just want you to understand something. I wouldn't be able to do any of this if it wasn't for you guys. Without you guys watching the videos, subscribing to the channel, leaving comments, liking the videos, all these other things that you guys do, I wouldn't be in the privileged position that I'm in now, where I am. We got a knock at the door last night at about 5 o'clock, and my wife went out to open the door, and there was a pile of boxes from companies that have sent me products to review. I would not be here doing any of this if it wasn't for you guys. So it's not just my generosity, it's your generosity as well. And I don't feel obligated to do giveaways or anything like that, but I definitely feel morally obligated to give these things away, because, like I say, I just wouldn't have them if it was, these companies would not even know anything about me if it wasn't for you guys. So it's a partnership thing. This is not about just me being generous or anything like that, because it's just not. It's a partnership between you guys and me. And so long as I keep getting products from companies to review and what have you, I'm going to be doing lots of giveaways. To keep all of this stuff would, in my opinion, would just be just terribly selfish on my part. So my only problem is, I wish I had more things to give away. I wish I was able to do something where more people could get stuff, and rather than just like one person winning something. I hate that, because then that means lots of other people lose out. But unfortunately, I can't do that. So I just wanted to make that clear, because the comments that I was getting were really, really nice, and I just didn't want people to think that this is all me. You know, it's just me being super generous and all the rest of it, because that's only part of it. The other part of it is you guys, the generosity that you guys give me. So right, let me read some of these comments here. Okay, so Cheryl says, blocks can be very convenient because you can paint directly on it in the page, and the glue helps with the buckling. Yeah, Cheryl, that's absolutely right. You don't have to tape down your paper and can just take the blocks anywhere. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Also, actually, while I'm here, with the Paul Rubin giveaway, I'm also giving away a Paul Rubin sorry. I'm also giving away a Paul Rubin sketch watercolor pad with that Pearl Essence. I just forgot to mention it in the video, but this is a pad that needs to be taken out and about and used, and I'm not really going to walk around with a pink watercolor pad, nor do I get out and about much in any case. So just for reference sake, I know it's off topic a little bit, but this pad is going to be given away with those Paul Rubin watercolors. But yes, you're right, the blocks of watercolor paper are excellent, because it stops so much buckling and all the rest of it. It's really, really good. Askia asks, with the collection blocks, I don't know if it is a collection of different papers or a paper which is called collection. There are these blocks with different papers which could also be renamed. No, right, okay, so the so when you look on Hahnemühle's website and you're looking for their papers, their collection range. So this ombre paper here is part of their collection range. Then they have the two watercolor papers. That's their collection range as well. And also, just let me double check here. See, they sent me this big brochure thing so that I could make sure that I was getting my information right. Okay, so with the collection paper, they have cold press, rough, and hot pressed 640 GSM watercolor paper. So that big thick pad that I showed you, the thick paper, that comes in rough, hot press, and cold press. I was using the hot press version because it was sent to me because of my colored pencil work and stuff like that. Not really watercolor, but when I got it, I wanted to do watercolors with it. Same with the 300 GSM watercolor paper. They come in cold press, rough, and hot press also. You can also get rolls in this collection range. Then they have the ombre paper that I've just showed you. I'm going to show you some pastels on it in a second. And that comes in various different pads and sizes, and you can get it in just white or with 9 different colors, which the one I have is with 9 different colors, which I'll show you again. And then they've got these sketch pads, which are part of the collection range also, but they don't have the orange on the front. They have the grey on the front, I guess, to distinguish them a little bit more. And I think with the ombre paper as well, this is a little bit more yellow than the orange that's on the watercolor papers. So the collection range is just really sketch pad, ombre paper, and watercolor paper. And that's just kind of like their finest range, their top of the line range. I'm sure they're probably going to add more into that. Okay, so Art of the Souls Multi-Universe. I use watercolor paper for Prismacolor. Arches. I love it, but I can't find it without the lines. So that is that arch. Let me see what type of paper that is. All right, so is that? I'm not too sure what you mean by the lines. I think maybe, are you talking about ridges in the paper rather than, you're not talking about lines that you could write sentences on, are you? Hi Art Gear Guide, I do everything on the papers of my colouring blocks. I don't own printers and all that fancy stuff, but I admire and love to see what you do with everything. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Rochelle. Hi Victorious, I love watching you, whether you are giving stuff away. Oh, thank you very much. Right, so it's arches. I think, are you sure that's, are you sure it's watercolor paper? I'm not sure that that's watercolor. When I put in that, it comes up as a sketch pad. Has it got like a beige, like a brown front to it, like a beige, like a sandy color front to it? Sorry, I'm asking Art of the Soul multiverse this. Yeah, when you're using colored pencils on papers, different types of papers, sometimes, and it's not always the case. When I first came to art and I first started watching certain artists, they were all using colored pencils on watercolor paper, and that's great. A lot of the time, a lot of the watercolor papers, especially the likes of like Fabriano and like the watercolor papers here that I've used from Hahnemühle, are really good. But even hot pressed watercolor paper has quite a rigidy texture to it, and so yeah, arts do have watercolor paper. Yeah, they make some beautiful watercolor papers as well. You can get rough or hot pressed or cold pressed. If you take the hot press and the cold press, hot press has got like a smoother surface, and then cold press has got a much more rigid, like wriggly surface, much more textured surface. And the thing is, it depends what type of artwork you're doing. If you're doing something like a landscape, and you're doing trees and you're doing bushes and things like that, a cold press paper might be really good for you, because then you can use the texture of the paper to help you get all those textures of the trees and the branches and the bushes and what have you. But if you're doing something that requires you to have, like, say you're doing a fan art, for example, where there's a lot of metal and like leather and things like that you've got to draw, you would need to use a much smoother surface. Something like a Bristol Vellum or a Bristol Smooth. And with Prismacolor works really, really well on both Bristol Smooth and Bristol Vellum. Bristol Vellum does have a little bit more texture to it than the Smooth, and so you will get a little bit more in the terms of layers if you use a Bristol Vellum. Whereas with Bristol Smooth, you're going to be quite limited to layers. So if you're the type of colored pencil artist that likes to layer, you wouldn't really be able to get many layers on a Bristol Smooth with Prismacolor, because they would start to bloom up on you and stuff like that, and it would just get to the point after about 5 layers where you just couldn't apply any more layers. So the Bristol Vellum would give you a little bit more layering on that. So I want to show you this ombre paper with some pastels, just to show you how it takes to the paper. Now, I know there's a lot of people out there that just do not like the texture of pastels, and I gotta say, the texture of it on my hands doesn't really bother me at all, but it is a messy medium, and that's okay if you're working in a studio. But when you're working in the corner of your living room with my wife breathing down my shoulders, it can be a little bit frustrating. But you have the other option of using pastel pencils, which are excellent. So I'm just taking a page out here. I'm taking this like sandy color page out. Now, like I say, if you've used pastels before, and maybe in the past people have said to you, use pastel mat, or there's another brand, I think Sennelier have a pad. It's a bit more like a sanded surface. So does Canson, and so does Aliana Nicholson, who does the brush and pencil stuff, she came out with a fantastic grade paper for pencils, but it works beautifully with pastels. Those types of surfaces allow for the pastel to be gripped on much easier. You can layer till your heart's content on that surface. With this paper, I have found this paper to be a little bit difficult when it comes to layering. However, having said that, there's a fantastic artist on YouTube who uses ombre paper religiously, and he uses pastel pencils, and the work he produces is fantastic. It's Colin Bradley is his name. I was just looking up his name. Colin Bradley's his name. He's a fantastic pastel artist. He predominantly uses pencils. He's also a watercolor artist, but he predominantly uses pencils, pastel pencils, and he uses ombre a lot. And the work he can get on that is fantastic. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put like a light layer down, and hopefully it will show you the texture of the paper. Okay, now these are Unison Pastels that I'm using. So the Unison Pastels are really top quality pastels in any case. So I'll just hold this up a little bit further to you. See, hopefully this camera will pick it up. But I've just done a light layer, so it helps to just show you the texture of the paper. You can see there it's a little bit like a woven texture. But when it comes to like layering, so you start putting another couple of layers on there, and then another couple. Your layering ability starts to run out on you. Now, of course, you can rub all this in, and I suppose this is a really good part about using ombre paper as opposed to like the pastel mat and the sanded paper. When you try to rub in pastels on sanded paper or ombre or pastel matte paper, after a while your fingers get very sore. The tips of your fingers get very sore, and especially if you're doing like a big piece, because you're essentially rubbing your fingers across sanded paper. But actually, so if I wanted to come in, this is where pastel medium is so excellent, because you can come back in on a dark surface like that with a lighter color, and most of the time it'll just sit on top perfectly. But again, with the ombre paper, I'm not 100% sure how this is gonna go. But if I was using pastel matte or I was using anything else like sanded paper, I wouldn't have any problems with this. So this is the first time for me as well. So actually, you know what? That's not bad. I think that when I first started out with pastels, and I just went into Hobbycraft, which is like Hobby Lobby over here in the UK, I think I just picked up the cheapest ombre paper or pastel paper that I could find, and that's probably why I have a bad view of ombre paper. But with this paper, with this Hahnemühle ombre paper, you've seen there that with that red, I put down about 5 or 6 layers, and it's fine. I mean, it could be smoothened out a little bit better. But then, when you're working with pastels, another thing that you would most likely have is like these little sponges, which you can get anywhere. You can get them online and stuff like that. And you would use those. A lot of people use these for rubbing the pastel in. You can see there, one of the advantages of the ombre paper is that you can spread out the pastel quite a bit, whereas with the pastel mat and the sanded paper, you can't really spread it out as much as this, because that texture just grips hold of the pastel and just doesn't let it move anywhere really. So it can be a little bit difficult. But you can see there that I was able to get lots of different layers on there, and then apply this light version, this light color on top with no problems whatsoever. So, and you can see there, applying a darker color on top is again no problem. It's one of the things that a lot of color pencil artists, if you're a color pencil artist, you will know that our biggest problem is highlights, getting the highlights of the artwork and what have you. And so if you've got a dark surface, you can come in with a white pencil and do a little bit, but you can't do much. And so as color pencil artists, we use like X-Acto knives and all sorts of other things like white gel pens, or the Posca pens, things like that, to try and create our highlights for us. Whereas with pastels, whether you're using block or whether you're using pencils, depending on the paper you're using, you can get really, really nice results, and it's really easy to come back in on a dark surface with a light color and produce beautiful work. Hence, when you look at Jason Morgan's work, his work is just phenomenal. When he's doing wildlife like tigers and things like that, he's working a lot of the time with soft blocks like the Unison blocks that I've just shown you there. And then with the harder blocks, you can come back in and create the highlights, or with pencils. And Jason does it just perfectly. His artwork is just absolutely breathtaking. Another thing, Hahnemühle do lots of different little pads, sketch pads and things like that you can take out and about with you. And one of my favorite pads from Hahnemühle is this tone tan. It's like, they call it Cappuccino. It's a hard surface book. The pages are 120 GSM. Sorry, there's 80 pages in it. So the pages are okay. You can do light washes on them. I've seen lots of different artists use like mixed media techniques on these pads. A little bit of watercolor, and then come back in with colored pencils, that type of thing. I've got some I've got some of the Marco chrome pencils that I'm going to be putting a review up of shortly. These pencils are quite soft. the good thing about working on a tone tanned paper is that this is where color pencil artists get to use our white again and create our highlights and what have you, because you're working with the mid-tone. So your lights and your darks should show up really quite well because you're working on a mid-tone. Obviously this white pencil isn't anywhere near as opaque as what like the luminance and the Derwent Chinese white is, but the paper itself is really lovely, and it's a really lovely little pad just to have out and about with you, and because it's a little hardback pad, it's going to wear well also. The other paper that I used from Hahnemühle was, let me stick these pastels away. The other paper I used from Hahnemühle was the Bristol Board. Now I used this because if you followed me for any length of time, you'll know that I love using Hi Wandering Star, you'll be able to watch it back again, and this live stream as well. I know it's 11 o'clock UK time, but I'm trying to work out what the best times are for people to, you know, like, I know I'm not going to be able to please everybody, but I'm trying to work out the best times on a Thursday that I can do these live streams that's going to suit the majority of you guys. So maybe if it's a little bit later, maybe 3 o'clock UK time, maybe that might be more beneficial for people. So the next one I do will be around about that time. And so for the first 3 or 4 live streams, I'll do them at different times, and I'll work out what's more beneficial for you. But as I was saying, I personally love doing a lot of marker and colour pencil art, and I use most of the time either mixed media paper or something like this Bristol Smooth, because it allows you to blend with your markers really well and then put the pencil on top. So the artwork that I done using this paper from Hahnemühle was the Charlie Brown one, using the Ohuhu markers. Now those markers were gorgeous, but the paper really helped me a lot here, because this paper is super smooth, and so I was able to do a lot of stuff on this paper that I may not have got away with on something like a mixed media paper, because it is so smooth that the blending options for markers on this are awesome. You get a little bit of extra time because of the smoothness and the type of surface it is. You can see the marker just sitting on top. Just that, when I say extra time, I'm talking seconds. But even those seconds are really important if you're doing like gradients and things like that. So even if it is just a couple of seconds, it's better than nothing. And this paper provided that extra time for me. So I really enjoyed it. It wasn't so great for coming back in with pencils. I forget what pencils I used, but using this type of paper, the best type of pencils to use on marker on this type of paper would be like a really soft chord pencil, like the Prismacolor. But you're not going to get lots of layering. Whereas if I do a marker piece, like some of the other bigger marker pieces that I've done, like the Power Rangers pieces, they've been done with marker and colour pencil. And because they were done in mixed media, I had that little bit of surface texture for the pencils to come in on top of, which was nice. But it's really nice. Now the GSM on this is 250, 120 pounds. So 200. It's about right for a Bristol paper. It's not. Sometimes you can get marker paper, which is like just wafer thin, and I don't personally like it, but it allows you to do lots of blending. But I prefer using the paper a little bit thicker, like this, like 250, and with this type of surface. So this Hahnemühle Bristol Board paper is really nice. I'll definitely be. I did get this sent to me, but I'll definitely be buying this once I run out of it for more marker art. So let me just take a little look at some of these questions while I've been gabbling. Do any of the watercolor pencils handle toned tan paper well? Hang on a second, let me have a wee look here. Okay, so I've got a couple of Caran d'Ache Supercolor Soft watercolor pencils. And I'll just use the paper that I was using. It's not tone tan, but it's grey. It's tone grey. This is the Hahnemühle tone grey watercolor paper. I'll use it in the Cappuccino pad in a second as well. But so I'm just putting down a couple of different colors here. Some light colors as well. Incidentally, I'm going to be doing like a comparison video soon of different watercolor pencils, like the Caran d'Ache different the range that they have, comparing those, because so yeah, the watercolor pencils work okay on this paper, on the tone tan paper. I'll show you on the Cappuccino paper in a second. Thanks so much for this stream. I'll have to finish watching later on. Alright, Shalene, thank you very much for stopping by. Sorry, I'm sure you've gone now, but if you watch it back, you'll hear me saying goodbye to you. Sorry about that. I need to see. I've not done many live streams. I'm not very good at them. I need to work on talking to you guys and things like that. It is 7:18. All right, so Rochelle, it's my goodness, it's 7:18 in the morning. Oh, right, okay, Rochelle. Well, hopefully you have learned something here. 7:18 is early in the morning, like. So this is a fine before work for me. Otherwise, I'd be watching it later. I have to go to work in 1:40, so live isn't gonna. Right, okay. Yeah, Susan, that's what I do as well. When I'm doing like big pieces, I'll use the markers for the underlay, and then I'll come back over with pencils and stuff over the top. Sometimes, if I need a little bit of whitewash. Yeah, Davik, markers are something you either love or you hate. There's such a wide variety of markers now, and so it's a difficult thing to choose from. Copics are super expensive, but if you look at some of my more recent marker reviews, the likes of ArtX and Ohuhu, Art and Fly, even Spectrum Noir, that have come, they've changed the nibs on their Illustrator marker. Their brush nibs now are really nice, whereas before they were they would fray at the top. They weren't that great. So it is really difficult. Markers can be really confusing, and they can be difficult to use, and there are lots of downsides to using markers. Oh, Susan, you're up at 7:24 as well. Yeah, the Inktense pencils are really nice pencils. They are something that you got to get used to because it's permanent. When you do lay something down, it's permanent. But the colors that they have in the Derwent Inktense are just gorgeous, very very vibrant colors, indeed. And another thing that the Inktense pencils are really good for is, those canvas bags that you see a lot of people walking about with. Inktense pencils work on those super well. So if you draw something on it and then you activate it, just like you would do it with a watercolor, the the artwork will come up really nice. Um, so sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name here. Sminkos de Paso says, when I use Hahnemühle ombre paper, I feel this is breaking. Like I'm too hard on the pastel. It feels like a moth. Sorry for bad English. Don't worry about your English at all. My English isn't great either. So you're in good company. Um, Yes, I know what you mean. The ombre paper. That's what I was saying earlier on. If you do use ombre paper, it's best to use ombre on an MDF board or something like that. Make sure you've got it on a flat board, and then if you're going to frame it, make sure you know it's framed right, and you put a fixative on. You definitely need a fixative on if you're using ombre paper to make sure that the pastel doesn't come off it, because of the paper being so flimsy. um any movement like that will make the pastel all fall off, especially if you're doing like layering. Yeah, I know. Wandering Star says that I'm doing well. Most live streams have someone reading questions and remarks for the host, and I'm solo. Yeah, yeah. Sorry, that's my alarm just to let me know my wife's coming home soon. Um, yeah, I know what you mean. I think I'll do a couple of live streams where what I'll do is I'll get questions from people beforehand. I'll ask people to send me questions, and then I'll read the answers out, like that. I think that might work quite well. Um, but we'll have to see. We just have to see how it works out. Yeah, Cheryl. you should try those ink tints. I think you'll like them. I think you'll like them a lot. Yeah, David, they work really well on the canvas bags. And another thing that they work really well on is, you know, the Vans shoes that you can buy. A lot of people buy those like just plain white or something like that, and then they'll draw things on the side of them, and then obviously activate it with watercolor brushes. And again, because of the vibrancy of the ink and what have you, they come up beautiful. So like, just buy a cheap set of white Vans or white canvas shoes, trainers, do a design on them with ink tints, and it looks awesome. And like I say, with the canvas bag as well. Yeah, I know that's another thing as well. Like all the different time zones in America, as well as around the world. So I'll just work it out over time, and we'll hit a happy medium somewhere along the line. Wow, it's 4 a.m. for you. Oh, I hope you haven't got up just to watch me. No, I don't think you need a treatment to work on the bag. First of all, I think what you need, but once you do the oh, what is it? Once you put the stuff on, I think you need to coat it with something to protect it, to make sure like that. Um, I mean, that might work. I'm not 100% sure, but anytime, because my wife did like the canvas bags with Derwent ink tints. Her and my youngest daughter Amelia did them, and they didn't do anything. They didn't treat it with anything at all. And I think because it's ink, like it didn't run when they took it out in the rain and stuff like that. But I think if you wanted to do it professionally, it would be a good idea to either treat it beforehand or treat it afterhand. So that's something that we definitely need to look into. Might actually be a good live stream doing something like that, getting a pair of trainers or like a canvas bag and doing some artwork on it with the Derwent ink tints and showing people how to do that. Yeah. You might be right, because maybe if you treat the trainers beforehand, it wouldn't maybe feather out as much, because it can feather out a little bit when you activate it with the water. Hi Anne, my goodness, from the Philippines. Do you want to know something, guys? I look at my analytics every now and again. It's not something that I really look at. I don't look at numbers and things like that. I look more to see where people from around the world are watching. And it blows my mind that people from the Philippines and from Vietnam and from Brazil and all these other countries watch my reviews. It's crazy. It's incredibly humbling. Really, really is. It's definitely not something I was ever expecting to happen, but I'm so happy it has. Yeah, that's what I'm. Yeah, I'm sure it would probably stop the bleeding or the feathering or anything like that. So yeah, you're probably right. Oh, Don, you're from Belize, are you? I've been to Belize with the army. Not, not, um, not something I want to hold on to too great with the memories, because we had to do survival training with snakes and stuff like that, and I'm petrified of snakes, so it scared the bejesus out of me. Oh, thank you very much, Tracy. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me. I try to make sure that when I'm doing the reviews and stuff like that, if I don't know the answer, I'll not say anything about it. At the minute, actually, so I'm gonna have to wrap this up soon because my wife will be home soon. But at the minute, there's a thing going around about the Holbein colored pencils, about the light fast on them. Some people are saying that the light fast on the Holbein are ASTM rated, and what they're saying is that Holbein purchased some of the technology from the ASTM, took it over to Japan, and used it over there to do the ASTM rating. Well, I was always under the impression that when Derwent done their testing for their light fast, because all of their pencils are blue wool light fast, except for the light fast pencils, which were ASTM. They had to send all their products over to America, where they done all the testing over there, because I could be wrong, but as far as I can remember, I think they do a lot of their testing in Nevada, and I think that was one of the reasons why the light fast pencils came out in dribs and drabs, because of the timing and stuff like that. But so rather than speculate, I've actually sent an email off to a contact I have at the ASTM, and so hopefully they're going to be able to answer that question for me definitively, whether a company can just go and buy like the technology that the ASTM company use, because I've got no idea what technology they use, but it must be. You've got to think about this, right? When they're doing light fast testing, they're testing pigments over 150 years or 100 years plus. Well, none of us are going to live 100 years, so they have to replicate sunlight over a 100-year period, and so they have all the science and technology to do all of that at the ASTM and the blue wool. Any pencils that are done in-house light fast testing, I'm not 100% sure how that's done, and that's where a lot of confusion comes in. And when you get down to the brass tacks of light fastness, there's not too many pencils actually on the market that are blue wool tested or ASTM tested. In fact, in the very short period of time that I have, I can tell you the only... Oh, hi, Lindsay. Good to see you. I'm just talking about light fastness, Lindsay, because a lot of people were talking about the Holbein pencils, and they were saying that Holbein had purchased technology from the ASTM, took it over to Japan, and done the light fast testing over there. And I was always under the impression that pencils had to be sent to America for that to be done. So I've contacted ASTM, I've got a contact over there, and I've contacted them and asked them, can that be done? Because I know a lot... See, I'm writing an article at the minute for Colour Magazine, and it's about light fastness in the pencils. And there's not actually that many pencils that are ASTM rated or blue wool rated. All of the Derwent pencils are blue wool rated, except for the light fast, and they are ASTM. With Caran d'Ache, the luminants are the only ones that are ASTM rated, except for the watercolor, the Museum Aquarelle. They might be done like that as well, but like the Pablo and things like that, they're all done in house, and it's difficult to know. It's difficult to know what type of standards they're using when they do in-house, because there's no specifics about it. So, but I've wrote all that in this article, and hopefully when this contact gets back to me about this whole ASTM thing, I'll be able to shed more light on it. And another thing as well, I don't understand why, if Holbein have done testing on their pencils and they're ASTM rated, I don't understand why that's not on their packaging, because that is a huge seller for any company to say that their pencils are ASTM rated. Anyway, so like I was saying, guys, I'm going to have to wrap this up now, but I'm going to be, when I do these live streams, the next one, I'm going to do it a little bit later in the day, and the next couple of them, I'll see how it goes, and hopefully I'll come to a fixed time. So before I go, let me see. Cool, look. There you go, guys. You can say goodbye to Coda. This is he's my little studio buddy. He just sits here on the arm of the chair beside me most of the time. Every now and again, he'll just slam his big paws on my desk and knock things over or knock pencils off or something like that. But he's my buddy. Right, guys, I'm going to have to love and leave yous. I'm so sorry, Lindsay, that I've got to go and you've just come in. But I'll do it a little bit later next Thursday and we'll see how it all goes. Listen, guys, thank you all so very much for coming on to the live stream. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. And like I said, all the comments and everything that you leave on my reviews and what have you, thank you so much. And always remember as well, these giveaways that I'm doing, I can only do them because of you guys. If you guys didn't make this channel so popular, then companies probably wouldn't be reaching out to me in any case. So I know I'm in a very privileged position, and so I try to give back wherever I can. Anyway, guys, thank you all so much. I look forward to seeing you again, the next review, and of course the next live stream, which will be next Thursday. I'll have a link up for that again. Once work out what time I'm going to do it. It'll probably be about 3 o'clock UK time. But I'll see you all then. Thanks very much, guys. Bye.